Welcome to our deep dive into The Art of Living by William Hart.
Yeah.
Um, we're going to explore how this book can, actually help us live better lives.
Yeah.
It digs into Vipassana meditation as taught by S.N. Goenka.
Right.
Not just like interesting ideas, but, tools we can use.
Absolutely.
And I thought it was so interesting how in the intro, Hart talks about the professor who, he knows everything about the ocean but can't swim.
Right.
And then there's the sailor who has all the practical skills.
Oh, yeah.
And of
Who
course,
survives the shipwreck.
the sailor.
The sailor. It's a great analogy for what this book is all about.
Totally.
It's not enough to just know about peace and happiness.
Yeah.
You have to be able to do something with that knowledge.
Yeah. I love that.
Put it into practice.
So one of the first things that really stuck out to me was, the book frames Buddhism as like a toolkit, not a textbook.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what does that actually mean for someone like me
Yeah.
who's trying to apply these ideas?
Yeah, well, it means shifting from a purely intellectual understanding of Buddhism to a more practical, experiential approach.
Okay.
It's about using the teachings as tools to navigate, the challenges that we all face in daily life.
So less about memorizing scriptures and more about putting them into practice.
Exactly. The book even quotes the Buddha himself saying something like, "What's the use of reciting all the scriptures if you don't actually live by them?"
Right.
It's like counting someone else's cows instead of tending to your own herd,
That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so it's about taking ownership of our own well-being
Exactly.
and actively using these teachings to create a more fulfilling life.
It's it.
But how do we even begin to do that? Where do we start?
Well, one of the foundational concepts the book explores is the idea of impermanence, which the Buddha called kalapas.
Okay.
Everything, including ourselves, is made up of these tiny particles that are in constant flux.
Okay.
Nothing stays the same, not even for a moment.
I've heard about this concept of impermanence before, but it's always been a bit abstract. Does the book make it, more concrete?
It does. It connects it to modern science's understanding of subatomic particles.
Okay.
Think about it. Our bodies are made up of these particles, and they're constantly changing and exchanging and interacting with the world around us.
Right.
We're like a river appearing to be the same, but the water's always flowing.
Always changing.
Change it.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can see how that applies to the physical body. What about the mind?
Yeah.
Our thoughts and feelings seem pretty solid and real.
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. The book breaks down 4 mental processes: consciousness, perception, sensation, and reaction. And they happen so fast, it makes the body look static in comparison.
Wow, so you're saying our minds are even more fluid and dynamic than our bodies.
Exactly. And if everything, including our minds, is in constant flux, it raises a really interesting question. What about this I, the sense of self that we cling to so tightly?
Yeah.
Is that also impermanent?
Whoa, that's kind of a mind-blowing thought.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how this concept of impermanence could really shake things up
Yeah.
in terms of how we see ourselves and the world. But I have to admit, I'm struggling a bit here.
Okay.
If everything is constantly changing,
Right.
doesn't that make life feel kind of meaningless?
That's a common reaction to the idea of impermanence.
Okay.
But the book suggests that understanding impermanence doesn't lead to nihilism. In fact, it can actually make life more meaningful.
Okay. I'm intrigued. How does that work?
When we cling to things as if they were permanent, our possessions, our relationships, even our own identities, we set ourselves up for disappointment and suffering.
Right.
We're constantly battling against this natural flow of change.
So you're saying that attachment is the root of suffering.
That's one of the core teachings of Buddhism. We suffer when we cling to things that are impermanent,
Right.
when we resist the natural flow of life.
But wait, if clinging is the problem,
Yeah,
isn't all desire a form of clinging?
that's a great point.
Are you saying we should just give up on, wanting anything good in life?
It's not about eliminating desire altogether. It's about recognizing the difference between healthy desires that lead to growth and fulfillment
Okay.
and unhealthy attachments that create suffering. The book dives deeper into this later on when it explores the concept of sila.
Okay, so maybe not all desire is bad.
Right.
I'm really interested in hearing more about this seal concept.
Yeah.
What exactly is it?
Sila is often translated as morality or ethical conduct,
Okay.
but it's much more than just following rules.
Okay.
It's about cultivating a way of being in the world that aligns with our deepest values and aspirations.
So it's about more than just like, don't be a jerk.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our actions have consequences, not just for others, but for ourselves as well. Okay.
When we act in ways that are harmful or unethical, we create this mental turmoil and negativity that blocks our own path to peace and happiness.
So Sila is like a form of self-care, in a way.
Precisely. The book emphasizes that Sila is not about following a set of rigid rules,
Okay.
but about cultivating the sense of inner harmony and integrity that naturally leads to right action.
I like that. It's about living in alignment with our values, which then creates like a ripple effect of positive energy outwards
Exactly.
into the world.
Yeah.
But how do we actually cultivate the Sila?
It involves cultivating mindfulness,
Okay.
which allows us to become more aware of our thoughts, feelings, and motivations before we act.
Okay, so mindfulness plays a crucial role here.
Yes.
Does the book connect this to meditation?
Absolutely. Bhavana, or meditation, is presented as the primary tool for cultivating mindfulness and calming the mind.
Okay.
This is where the rubber really meets the road in terms of applying these teachings.
I'm actually really curious about that because I've tried meditation before.
But my mind always feels like a whirlwind of thoughts. Does the book address that challenge?
It does.
Okay.
It acknowledges that a busy, distracted mind is common.
Right.
Compares it to trying to study a whirlwind.
That makes sense.
And through meditation,
Yeah.
we can learn to calm and train the mind, creating the space for deeper insights to emerge.
That sounds incredibly valuable, especially today, with all the distractions and everything.
So many distractions.
But what exactly is bhavana?
Yeah.
Is it just about, like, sitting still and trying to empty your mind?
It's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
The book describes 3 key components of bhavana: right effort, right awareness, and right concentration.
Okay, break those down for me.
Okay.
What does right effort mean in the context of meditation?
Right effort is about gently bringing your attention back to your chosen object of focus, whether it's your breath, a mantra, or a specific image. When your mind wanders, as it inevitably will,
Yeah.
you simply notice it without judgment. Okay.
And gently guide your attention back.
So it's not about forcing the mind to be still,
Right.
but about cultivating like a gentle, persistent awareness.
Exactly.
Okay, what about right awareness? What does that involve?
Right awareness is about paying attention to the present moment
Okay.
with clarity and openness.
Mm-hmm.
It's about observing your thoughts, your feelings, and sensations without getting caught up in them.
So it's about like stepping back from our thoughts and feelings and observing them with a sense of detachment.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the book emphasizes that this practice of right awareness can be applied not just during meditation,
Right.
but also in our daily lives.
So it's about bringing that same mindful awareness to our everyday experiences.
Precisely.
Okay. And finally, there's right concentration. What is that?
Right. Concentration involves focusing your attention on a single object without getting distracted.
Okay.
So it's about developing the ability to focus our attention,
Right.
stay present even when our minds want to wander off. This is all making a lot of sense. But I have a question. Where does wisdom fit into all this? You mentioned the book talks about 3 different types of wisdom. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, that's a great transition to the next key concept. The book highlights the importance of paññāya, which translates to wisdom.
Okay.
It's not just about book smarts or knowledge. It's this deeper understanding that comes from direct experience.
So not just reading about life, but actually living it and learning from those experiences.
Exactly.
Okay, but you mentioned 3 types of wisdom.
Right.
What are those?
The first is received wisdom,
Okay.
which is what we learn from others, our parents, our teachers, mentors. Then there's intellectual wisdom gained from books, teachings, studio.
Okay.
And finally, there's experiential wisdom.
Okay.
This is the most profound kind, arises from our direct experiences in life.
Can you give me some examples of each? It would help to make this, like, more concrete for me.
Sure. Received wisdom could be, the advice your grandmother gave you about relationships that was passed down through generations.
Okay, yeah.
Intellectual wisdom might be learning about mindfulness from a book like the one we're discussing today.
Right.
And experiential wisdom might be the deep understanding of impermanence that arises after you experience a personal loss.
Okay, those are great examples.
Yeah.
So we need all 3 types of wisdom for a balanced and fulfilling life.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes that Vipassana meditation, the main focus of the art of living, is a powerful path to cultivating that experiential wisdom.
Okay, so that's where this Vipassana meditation comes in.
Yeah!
I'm intrigued to learn more about it.
Let's dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll explore what Vipassana is all about.
Sounds good.
And how it can help us access that experiential wisdom and ultimately find more peace and freedom in our lives.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. All right, welcome back to our deep dive into the art of living. So the first part, we talked about Buddhism as a toolkit. And this crazy idea that everything is, like, always changing.
Right.
And how our actions can, actually make a difference in our happiness.
Yeah.
Now, I really want to get into this Vipassana meditation thing. Like, what's the deal with that?
That's where it gets really practical.
Oh.
Vipassana meditation is like the core practice in this book.
Okay.
It's a direct path to experiencing the truth of impermanence, not just thinking about it.
So it's not like just another relaxation technique or something.
Exactly. The book emphasizes that Vipassana is about training your attention to observe physical sensations throughout your body, and not in a vague way, systematically.
Okay. So I think I get the observing part, but what do you mean by systematically, and how do you not get swept up in, like, a really itchy mosquito bite?
Great question.
Yeah.
Systematically means you're not just randomly noticing sensations, you're moving your attention through your body with purpose.
Okay.
The book recommends starting at the top of your head and working your way down, noticing any sensation that arises.
Okay.
Could be tingling, warmth, pressure, even just a sense of spaciousness.
So it's like a mental body scan, but with more focus on the actual feel of each area.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But how does that help with the, like, not getting swept up part? Like, if I'm noticing a pleasant sensation, won't I want to hold on to it? And if it's unpleasant, won't I want to push it away? That's just human nature, right?
You're hitting on a key point here.
Okay.
The practice is about observing these sensations with a detached awareness without clinging to the pleasant ones or resisting the unpleasant ones. The book calls this equanimity.
Equanimity. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds hard.
It's a practice.
But I could see how it could be really helpful, not just like during meditation, but in everyday life, right? Like if I can learn to not freak out every time something bad happens, that would be a huge win.
Exactly. And the book suggests that this ability to observe with equanimity is a skill we can develop through practice.
Okay.
It's not something we're born with. It's something we cultivate over time.
So the more we practice this during meditation, the more we can kind of bring it into our everyday lives.
Precisely. The book presents Vipassana meditation as a kind of training ground for developing mental resilience and equanimity, which can then benefit us in all areas of life.
I'm starting to see how this could be really useful.
Yeah.
But I have to be honest, the idea of just sitting and observing sensations for like who knows how long, it just sounds kind of boring.
I hear you.
I know you said it's not just a relaxation technique, but how does simply noticing these sensations like lead to that profound wisdom and freedom the book talks about?
That's where the magic of Vipassana unfolds.
Okay.
By observing sensations in this way, you start to see their impermanent nature. They arise, they linger, and then they vanish. Nothing stays the same, even for a moment.
So it's like watching the weather patterns of your own body.
Yes.
Sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it's stormy, but it's always changing.
Exactly. Yeah. And as you continue practicing, the book says you begin to see this impermanence isn't limited to just physical sensations. It applies to your thoughts, your emotions, even your sense of self. Everything is in flux, constantly changing.
Okay, I can see how that would be a pretty huge realization.
Yeah.
But if everything is changing, doesn't that kind of lead to apathy or nihilism?
That's a common concern.
Like, if nothing is permanent, what's the point of anything?
The book tackles this head-on. It argues that recognizing impermanence doesn't mean giving up on life or becoming detached.
Okay.
It actually allows us to engage more fully. Appreciate each moment for what it is without getting caught up in the illusion of permanence.
So instead of trying to cling to things that can't last, we learn to appreciate the beauty of each passing moment. That actually sounds pretty liberating.
It is.
But I have to admit, a part of me is still a bit skeptical.
Yeah.
How can simply observing sensations have such a profound impact on my life? It's not like I'm trying to become a monk or anything.
You don't have to be a monk or a spiritual guru to benefit from Vipassana.
Okay.
It's a practice that's available to anyone, regardless of your background or your beliefs.
That's encouraging. So if I'm, like, ready to give this a try, what are the practical steps? Where do I even begin?
The book offers a very clear and structured approach.
Okay.
First, find a quiet place where you can sit comfortably for a period of time. It doesn't have to be fancy. A chair, a cushion on the floor.
All right, so no incense and chanting then?
No, just a comfy spot where you can chill out for a bit.
Okay, cool.
Once you're settled, close your eyes and bring your attention to your breath.
Okay.
Just notice the natural flow of your breath as it enters and leaves your body.
That sounds familiar.
It is. The book explains that focusing on the breath is a great way to kind of calm and steady the mind.
Okay.
Preparing it for the more subtle work of observing sensations.
Okay, so I'm breathing, chilling out. What happens next? How do I go from focusing on the breath to observing those sensations throughout my body?
Once you feel your mind settling down a bit, you can begin to systematically move your attention through different parts of your body, starting with the top of your head and working your way down.
So it's like that mental body scan we talked about earlier.
Exactly. But instead of just noticing the different parts, you're paying close attention to any sensations that arise in each area.
Okay.
Tingling, warmth, pressure, coolness, even just a sense of space.
So, for example, if I'm focusing on my hand, I might notice, like, a slight throbbing in my thumb or a feeling of coolness on my palm.
Precisely. And the key is to observe these sensations with equanimity.
Right.
Without getting caught up in judgments, like this feels good or this feels bad.
Okay, that's where I think I'll struggle. It seems really hard to not react to sensations, especially if they're unpleasant.
You're right, it's not easy.
Yeah.
The book acknowledges that our minds are naturally drawn to pleasant sensations and repelled by unpleasant ones.
Right, of course.
But the more we practice, the better we become at simply observing without getting hooked.
So it's like training a puppy.
Yeah.
You know, at first, they're all over the place. But with patience and practice, they learn to sit and stay.
Exactly.
Okay, so just be patient and keep practicing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just like training a puppy, it's important to be kind and patient with yourself as you're learning to meditate.
Right.
Your mind will wander. It's inevitable.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But every time you notice it wandering, you gently guide your attention back to the sensations.
So no beating myself up.
No.
If my mind goes off on a tangent.
Exactly.
Just gently bring it back.
Gently bring it back.
Yeah.
The book emphasizes that kindness and self-compassion are essential for this practice.
Okay, that's good. It takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
So how long should someone meditate for when they're first starting out?
The book suggests starting with shorter sessions, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and gradually increasing the duration as you feel more comfortable.
Okay.
The key is consistency rather than intensity.
Right.
It's better to meditate for a short time every day than to try to do a marathon session once a week.
Makes sense. What about those times when, like, the mind just won't settle down? Does the book give, like, any tips for dealing with distractions and restlessness and stuff?
It does. It compares the mind to a wild monkey, constantly jumping from branch to branch.
Oh, I like that.
And the key is to not get frustrated or discouraged.
Okay.
Just gently bring your attention back to the sensations again and again.
So patience is, like, a key ingredient in this whole process.
Absolutely. The book emphasizes that Vipassana is a practice, not a quick fix. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes commitment to cultivate these mental skills.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this whole Vipassana thing could be a real game changer.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like, what are the potential benefits? What can people realistically expect to gain from incorporating this practice into their lives?
The book highlights a wide range of potential benefits, both mental and physical.
Okay.
On the mental side, Vipassana is said to cultivate greater calmness, clarity, and emotional balance.
Okay.
It can also improve focus, concentration, and self-awareness.
So it's not just about, like, stress reduction. It's about developing a whole set of mental superpowers that can benefit us in different areas.
Exactly. And the book also mentions potential physical benefits.
Okay, like what?
Such as reduced stress hormones, improved sleep quality, and even pain management.
Wow, that's impressive. But are those claims supported by, like, scientific evidence?
There's a growing body of research on the benefits of mindfulness meditation, of which Vipassana is a specific type. Studies have shown that mindfulness practices can indeed reduce stress, improve focus, and enhance emotional well-being.
Okay, so there's some scientific backing for these claims. It's
Yeah.
reassuring. But what about the, spiritual aspect of Vipassana? The book seems to suggest that it's more than just, a mental training technique. It's like a path to liberation from suffering.
Yeah.
Is that, a realistic goal for someone like me who's just trying to, navigate the everyday chaos of life?
That's a great question, and one that the book addresses directly.
Okay.
It acknowledges that the path to liberation is a gradual process that requires commitment and dedication. But it also emphasizes that even small steps in the right direction can bring significant benefits to our lives.
So it's not about, achieving some perfect state of enlightenment overnight.
Yeah.
It's about making progress toward greater peace and well-being.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes that the journey itself is just as important as the destination. The process of practicing Vipassana, with all its challenges and insights, can be transformative in itself.
Okay, I love that perspective.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the journey, even with its ups and downs.
Yeah.
This has been so helpful.
Good.
But I'm curious, is there anything else the book mentions about how we can take these insights off the meditation cushion and into our daily lives?
That's a great segue to the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll explore how the book suggests we can integrate these principles into our everyday lives
Okay.
to navigate those real-life challenges with more wisdom and compassion.
Welcome back. So we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into the art of living.
We have.
We talked about Buddhism as a toolkit, this wild concept of impermanence,
Yeah.
and this Vipassana meditation thing. But now I'm curious about the so what? How do we take all this stuff off the cushion and actually use it in our everyday lives?
That's where the rubber meets the road. The book really emphasizes that Vipassana isn't just about finding peace and quiet when you're meditating. It's about cultivating this way of being in the world that's more grounded, more aware, more compassionate.
Right. That sounds lovely. But how do we actually remember all this stuff?
Yeah.
When we're dealing with a frustrating coworker or stuck in traffic or just feeling totally overwhelmed?
It's easy to forget everything the moment we step off the cushion. You're right.
Yeah.
That's why the book emphasizes the importance of mindfulness. It's about taking that mindful awareness we practice during meditation and applying it to all aspects of our lives.
So instead of just noticing sensations in our bodies, we're paying attention to, our thoughts and feelings and emotions and even our interactions with the world around us.
Exactly. It's about expanding that field of awareness to encompass everything we experience.
Okay.
The book gives this example of, let's say, you're feeling stressed about a deadline at work. Instead of getting totally swept away by that anxiety, mindfulness would be to pause, notice those stressful thoughts and feelings, but not get totally hooked by them.
So it's not about pretending we don't have those feelings. It's more about creating some space between ourselves and the emotion.
Exactly.
And then choosing how we respond.
Yeah, the book suggests that this mindful space allows us to respond to situations with more clarity and wisdom rather than just reacting impulsively.
Right, instead of just freaking out.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But what about those times when we're really triggered, full-on emotional overwhelm? Is mindfulness enough to deal with that?
Well, that's where the practice of equanimity comes in.
Right, that thing we were talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah,
remember, it's not about suppressing or denying our emotions.
Right.
It's about recognizing that even the most intense emotions are impermanent.
Okay.
They arise, they hang out for a bit, and then they fade away.
So it's kind of like riding a wave.
Yes.
You don't fight the wave, you learn to surf it, knowing that eventually it will, break and settle.
I love that analogy.
Okay, good.
The book suggests that we can use the tools of Vipassana to cultivate equanimity even in the midst of those emotional waves.
So what are some of those tools? How do we actually do this equanimity thing when it feels like our whole world is falling apart?
One technique the book highlights is simply acknowledging the emotion without resistance.
Okay.
For example, if you're feeling overwhelmed with anger,
Right.
instead of trying to push it away, you could just say to yourself, okay, I'm feeling angry right now. This is what anger feels like.
That seems counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it?
Why wouldn't we want to just push away those bad feelings?
The book argues that resisting emotions actually gives them more power over us. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater.
Right.
The more you push it down, the more forcefully it's going to pop back up.
That makes sense. So by acknowledging it, we're kind of taking away its power.
Exactly. And the book suggests that once we acknowledge the emotion, we can then observe its physical sensations in the body.
Okay.
Maybe a tightness in the chest, or a clenching of the jaw, or a racing heart.
So we're using that same mindfulness that we practice during meditation.
Exactly. And then finally, the book reminds us to remember the impermanent nature of emotions.
Right.
We can remind ourselves, this feeling will pass. It's not who I am. It's just a temporary experience.
Yeah, that's a good one, a good reminder.
It is.
I can see how practicing these techniques, even just a little bit, could make a difference. So we've got mindfulness for staying present, equanimity for those big emotions, anything else we can use to, make Vipassana part of our lives.
The book emphasizes that this is an ongoing practice, not a destination.
Okay.
We're always learning, growing, and refining our ability to live with more awareness and compassion.
I like that. It takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
Having to be perfectly mindful all the time.
Exactly. It's more about showing up with a willingness to learn and grow.
And just keep practicing.
Keep practicing.
Right.
And remember, even small steps in the right direction can make a big difference.
Totally.
Maybe it's taking a few conscious breaths before reacting to a stressful email, or noticing the feeling of the sun on your skin during your lunch break.
I like those.
Little things.
Yeah, it's about finding those little moments to reconnect with ourselves and with the present moment.
Yeah.
Even when everything's crazy.
Exactly. And over time, those little moments add up to create a more peaceful, grounded, and fulfilling way of being in the world.
This has been such a cool exploration of the art of living.
It has.
We really went deep from seeing Buddhism as a practical toolkit to this whole idea of impermanence, and then, how Vipassana meditation can help us actually experience that. And most importantly, how to bring all these ideas into our everyday lives.
Yeah, it's been a really enriching conversation.
Totally.
I hope our listeners have gotten something out of it.
Yeah, I hope they feel inspired to, try out these ideas, live a little more mindfully, and all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
And if you are listening, definitely check out the book, William Hart's The Art of Living.
Great book.
It really is. It's a fantastic guide to this whole world of Vipassana meditation.
Yeah, and remember, this journey of self-discovery and liberation, it's always available to us. It starts with a single step, a single breath, a single moment of mindful awareness.
That's beautiful. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive for today.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, may you find peace, clarity, and wisdom in every moment.